The Stop Drop Gaming F1 show is brought to you by Stop Drop Gaming's F1 2014 Sunday Night Leagues for Xbox 360 and soon F1 2015 on Xbox One. Visit stopdropgaming.com today to sign up. So good evening and welcome to the latest edition of the StopDropGaming.com F1 show. I'm your host Stephen J. Hayes 83. I'm joined this evening as always by Ollie. Say hello.
Hello.
EJ or C Stealth.
Hi.
And the Love Doctor himself, Stewart Love.
Hello.
And how's that going for you, Stewart?
Let's not go there.
Let's not go there. Wonderful. So, Sunday's race was a hard-fought race indeed, with Lewis Hamilton coming home for the victory. He's now won 8 of the last 10 Grand Prix, and we saw the return of Rosberg's petulance, is how I'm wording it there. From your point of view, Stewart, how did you find the ongoing battle between Hamilton and Rosberg?
It's seemingly turned into not only a battle of pace, but a psychological warfare, which quite clearly Hamilton's winning, but Rosberg's turned into a bit of a child at the minute, saying, oh, he's backing me up. Well, we was hearing that over the radio. If you got that much pace, go past him, is what I'm thinking. But he's quite seemingly content or not fast enough to get past at this point in time.
I don't think he was fast enough to get past him. I think that was the problem. He wasn't he was quicker than Hamilton at that point, but he wasn't fast enough to get past him. And I don't think Hamilton would have let him past anyway. Yeah, that would have been a fight.
Oh yeah.
Do we feel, though, that actually it's Hamilton's right as race leader to dictate the pace? I mean, after all, we're here to race, aren't we? So I kind of listened to Hamilton's comments where he said he's not there to look after Nico Rosberg's race, and I kind of understand that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a spectacle for the racers, is it? For the watchers, is it not?
I think that the way Hamilton was playing, it was effectively... I can't remember who said this quote, some world champion, can't remember which one exactly, but you aim to win the race in the slowest possible time. So he was just going at his own pace, managing his tyres, doing what he had to do just to stay ahead and keep enough of a gap to make sure he was comfortable.
I also think it would be silly of Hamilton to back up Rosberg to see if Vettel could get past him, because Vettel was...
Because then he's risking it for himself.
Yeah, the points, in the championship. The less points that Vettel gets, the further away he is from Hamilton in the championship. So it'd be stupid to let Hamilton go into second or try and, force Hamilton and
Rosberg
into third. Yeah, it's just stupid.
I mean, the way that the championship's going already, it looks like Rosberg is at this stage, at least anyway, the third place driver, essentially, isn't it? I mean, the way it's going.
3 or 4 points behind Vettel, something like that.
But it's clearly rattled the Mercedes management, because they've come out and said today that they may have to look to manage their races because of the threat of Ferrari.
There is no threat of Ferrari. Sorry, but I have to say, there's no threat of Ferrari.
You really don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
Well, we'll move on to Ferrari then. So the speak or talk all weekend was that they could actually challenge Mercedes. Obviously, that never happened as the length of the tyre stint that the Mercedes could run was far superior than they actually thought. But EJ, you don't believe that Sebastian Vettel, if he'd got a sniff of Rosberg, he could have taken that second place?
No, Rosberg can set off a pace a little bit faster. No, I don't think Vettel would come in second.
So you think it was a completely tactical race from the Mercedes perspective? They were simply managing the pace, just doing the minimum that was required in order to get the cars home in the 1-2 finishes.
Yep.
Well, how would you discuss then the drop-off in Williams' pace? So seemingly from the first 3 races, we've seen any car that's got a Ferrari in the back of their Ferrari engine in the back of their car move quite a way up the grid. Sauber, for example, absolutely nowhere last year, suddenly scoring points this year in complete reverse fashion. Williams, who've got the Mercedes engine,
who were fighting for podiums and wins at the end of last season.
Exactly, and now seemingly the 4th best team. Do we think that the Ferrari engine has made that many leaps to be able to do that? And in which case, do you not think if they have made that leap over that short period of the winter, do we not think towards the end of the season that Ferrari may in fact be there?
I think the Ferrari engine is more drivable at this point in time. Not only has it bridged the gap in terms of power, not to the same level as the Mercedes, but it's enough to make sure that cars with the aerodynamic advantage can make the most of it.
I think indeed Ferrari did make a leap forward in power and in reliability, but they're still missing some top end. But the case about Sauber is that they did their homework better this year than last year, so that's why they are in more in front
Competing.
this year.
The thing is, there's an old adage, isn't there, that if the car looks fast, it usually will be. Well, that Sauber looks absolutely butt ugly. So what do you put that down to?
Well, they have got two arguably solid drivers in the car.
I thought you were going to say they had two cars then. I was going to correct you that every team has two cars, but you reckon they are solid drivers?
Well, where did Ericsson come in GP2? I think he came top 3 when he moved up. Okay, he's coming with a pay packet behind him. Same with NASA, but I think he came top 3 as well, so you can't...
I think we can blame Felipe Nasr for the new Sauber colour scheme, to be honest.
Well, I've got sponsorships for that.
Well, it's Banco do Brazil.
Yeah, good point.
Are they blue and yellow?
Yeah. I believe so.
And it's just a coincidence that it's the same colour as the Swedish flag.
Oh, there.
Wrong way round.
You're going into somewhere there that we might get ourselves into trouble.
I'm not suggesting a tinfoil hat Illuminati conspiracy.
I'm suggesting that there are many other banks that you may choose to put your money into, and many other countries you may choose to visit.
ABN AMRO Nederland.
So, moving on.
Speaking of Netherlands.
So, last year, we had the passing of arguably one of Britain's biggest F1 fans for at least one driver, as in John Button. So we had where we had previous seasons where we had the father and son duo all the way through as a story. This year we've had Max Verstappen come in, who's been looked after by his father, Jos the Boss. He was a bit special, wasn't he, Max Verstappen, this last race?
Hell yeah. Look at his overtakes of Felipe Nasser and Ericsson.
They were superb. He was way beyond his years with those overtakes. They were stunning. The first one on Ericsson was unbelievable. He came from nowhere, didn't he? Ericsson just left it wide open because he didn't think he was close enough to make the move, and he just did it. And at the end of the race, in his interview, he said the old the Ayrton Senna line: if there's a gap, you've got to take it.
Same here.
I don't know. He's very good, but he's quite on the basis that he's 17 now. He's easily got 20 years, depending on if he gets bored or anything. It's just how far can his talent take him at this point in time.
Well, I'm just going to stop you there. There is another driver that came in very young that was lauded for being brilliant. Jaime Alguersuari, and look what happened to him. So Toro Rosso, Red Bull seem to drop drivers more often than not if they don't just come out the bag and do it.
Well, he has so far.
Didn't Alguersuari have a good early?
Not as good as Verstappen.
True, but
the car also wasn't as good. I think you've got to say that as well.
The car was nowhere near in comparison.
But there's no denying the fact that even Sainz as well is doing a much better job. Yeah, a much better job than the Red Bull. And when you've got Danny Ricciardo, a driver that was winning races last year, struggling to score points, I think it just goes to show just how bad that Red Bull is. Do we really think it's all down to the Renault engine?
Not only that, it's also that Andrew Newey did a step back in designing the car.
I think people are overestimating how much Adrian Newey does/did. yes, he was an influential figure, but he had a lot of people around him, and he wouldn't have just left it to any old Joe. He would have, quote unquote, groomed them to be, well, do a top job, if you know what I mean. He's not going to let just any old Joe take over and risk a bad car and affecting his legacy.
So with Adrian Newey, I think Eddie Irvine uttered the line, you either won the championship because you were Michael Schumacher, or you won the championship because you were driving a Newey car.
Oh yeah, that's what it was in the late 90s and
early 90s as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So
late
we
90s
think
and early 2000s.
So we think Max Verstappen doing a very good job, should be eyeing up Daniel Kvyat's seat.
I think that due to the car, what he's been given Kvyat, I think he'll be given another season, depend on how bad it goes. If you know
But
what
it
I
is
mean.
quite bad for Kvyat at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, that Red Bull looks horrible, and it's got that engine, the Renault engine as well.
Yeah,
it's just terrible.
The thing is, you can't just 3 races. Okay, Verstappen's had a great, amazing start to a season, but you can't just. Kvyat did great last season for what car he had.
True.
And yet we can't take that away from him and just say, arguably, you've been given a bad hand, so we're going to give it to a guy who's had arguably a much better hand in Verstappen this season to race with, who's done a good job, and effectively, equivalent to what he did last year in Kvyat, Verstappen.
So we had the best part of 13 years with Jensen and John Button. Do you think we'll have the same sort of period of time with Jos and Max Verstappen?
Yeah, I think so. Let's hope so.
Just to put it out there, in 13 years' time, Max will just be 30.
Yeah.
He's still got another 10 years at least in him, possibly there.
At least. Well, isn't Button's 30? What is he now? 34, 35?
34, I think.
So yeah, potentially almost another 20 years.
Yeah, I went with 20, being that he stayed into his 37.
So from good drivers to bad drivers, Maldonado.
Crashed
That's the Maldonado. So Jensen Button made contact with Maldonado and duly got a penalty. I think it was a 5-second time penalty, and he's got driver's points on his license. Though I have to say, when I was watching it, that it looked like Maldonado's car was moving from side to side as he was coming into the bend. I mean, can anyone really? I know he gets a lot of stick, but really, can anyone be that bad?
It's not only a standing joke, but the thing is, he's unpredictable. He makes a lot of errors. However, he has produced in what was a pretty average car in 2012 was it 2012 in the Williams?
In the Spanish Grand Prix.
Yeah, he produced arguably one of the performances of the season.
Well, was it the performance of the season though? It was at the Spanish Grand Prix where they test. You couldn't get close to the back of him, said Alonso, the guy who finished second, because the dirty air was affecting it, and effectively Maldonado just did a test session.
Yeah, but the thing is, you say everyone tests there, so everyone's effectively on an even playing field. No one is,
except Manor.
At the time, they were on the same playing field, but he did produce a great performance. He fully deserved that win. He held back what is arguably one of the best drivers of the last 10 years.
Well, I have to say, I think Lotus are a bit of a mess at the moment, because in Grosjean, I believe they've actually got a driver who has improved. And I was super pleased that he scored some points on the weekend, because it's been a trying time. Towards the end of the 2013 season, it looked like he'd really made some leaps and bounds. The 2014 car was abysmal, so I'm glad to see that he's getting a few points on the board.
Oh yeah.
Maldonado clearly was brought on for money, and this season they've brought on a woman who was 3 seconds off the pace in GP3. And I don't understand why you do that unless you're just going out there just to say, we've got a female driver.
My money's on paycheck.
And
she's got to be coming with some money.
She's got to be coming with something, yeah, definitely. And then you've got the GP2 champion, Jolyon Palmer. Surely Palmer deserves the chance in the car. rather than Maldonado.
This has been the first year the GP2 champion hasn't been given a seat since, to my knowledge, since before Hamilton.
It's certainly not good. I would say when you have drivers that are coming, well, if we'll go back to Max Verstappen, hardly touched a single seater straight into a Formula One car. You've got someone that goes through 5 to 7 years worth of schooling, tutorage through the actual junior formula, and is just lumped straight into a test role, essentially.
I think the trouble with F1 today is that it all comes down to money and who you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure the reason Max Verstappen's got a seat is because of his dad and the fact that he's got money behind him.
Okay. Yeah, you have to say Max is backing it up, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's good to see that a paid driver will, actually go out there and produce results.
Okay, I'm just gonna.
It's a shame for F1 that it's this whole thing about paid drivers like Maldonado that have to ruin it for the rest of the grid.
We say Maldonado, yes, he comes with a lot of money, but I'm gonna take you back to 2010.
He's got to have a hell of a lot of money.
2010 GP2 world champion. In his season he beat Sergio Perez and Jules Bianchi.
Forza Jules.
Yeah.
He's a terrible driver. I mean, just look at the weekend how he came off of that corner. I mean, how do you overshoot that corner at the pits? It's not. And then he had another corner where he just completely overshot.
I completely admit he is accident prone to say the least, but he in winning GP2
But you can't be accident prone at the highest level of motorsport. You cannot. That's just rule number 1.
Yeah, I'm just looking through who came where. In GP2, we've had previous winners who made it to F1: Nico Rosberg, Kovalainen, Scott Speed, Hamilton. Then we just had quite a long list, which only 2 of the champions haven't made it. 3 of them haven't made it to F1 since 2005, which I haven't heard of them since, But then we got Jolyon Palmer won it last season. Then we got 3rd place Freepay and NASA gets a seat. I don't get
That's
it. Money. But I'll take the guy who more likely get me results, in my opinion.
Just to close up on this one and move on to the next topic, I find it really distasteful that someone such as Maldonado has a seat, and someone like John-Eric Verne, who gave Ricciardo a run for his money, was dropped by Toro Rosso, is now nearly winning races in Formula E. I mean, you can't stop talent, but clearly you can, and if you have a bigger pay packet, and that really frustrates me. And I think in this day and age, F1 has to sort itself out, really, doesn't it? I mean, it's supposed to be the pinnacle of motorsport.
You can say same thing about Guido van der Garde and Tom Ericsson or Nasser.
I think, yes, Maldonado makes a hell of a lot of mistakes. Not going to deny this in the slightest. But in junior formulas, he has delivered the goods. He hasn't delivered it at the pinnacle. He has made a lot of mistakes. He either needs to step up his game and lose the pay driver stigma, or just go at this point, in my opinion.
And for the sake of the spectators, we hope he does. Anyway, moving on to more positive notes. McLaren had a bit of a torrid time of late, obviously moving across to the Honda engine. I think I read somewhere that Fernando Alonso had only completed something like 12 laps before this weekend, where finally 2 McLaren cars finished. They've turned around and they've said that Europe will be the start of their season. Honda are promising to use one of the engine tokens to make some great big gains. The car looks pretty good, but can Europe come early enough? Ollie?
I think they're pretty desperate for Europe, aren't they? They've got to be at the state that things are at the moment. It's quite embarrassing for a team like McLaren to be finishing just in front of the Mauritius or the Manners, if you will. They've got to make some gains, haven't they? They keep telling us they are, and they apparently were going to make some gains in China, but they didn't.
Well, they did, though, didn't they? They did. They were about 5 seconds off the pace in Australia. That was down to 3 seconds off the pace in Malaysia. It's down to 2 seconds off the pace in China. So they are making little steps. But EJ, how long can two former world champions put a brave face on?
Depends on how much money they get.
So, really?
That's an issue with them. With how long they've been in the sport, they could quite easily go and they've got enough money. They're comfortable. At this point in time, they're doing it because they want to race. I think no one can deny that.
I think no one can deny that the battle between Button and we'll go back to Maldonado very quickly, and eventually Alonso, who joined in at the end. That's I think you were right. That's what they live for is the racing, and it was nice to see that through the midsection the McLaren was able to compete, and I think Button actually got past on a DRS straight, didn't he, at one point?
Correct.
Yeah, he was racing against Ericsson, I think, at one point. He had a nice little battle with Ericsson.
So clearly the racecraft isn't lost.
It was a fourth injury, I think. It was Perez. Is it not?
Perez and Hülkenberg.
They had a little battle anyway.
So what do we think the next round's going to hold then? So we've got Bahrain this weekend, the place of arguably the best race of last season. What do we think is going to happen? Will the Hamilton-Rosberg feud overspill? Will Ferrari get close? Will young Verstappen get back in on the act? Will the McLaren close up? How do you feel, Stewart?
I think, again, we're going to see another Mercedes victory there, but I won't rule the Ferrari out. Again, it's Vettel is arguably got his mojo back, or whatever you want to say. He's performing at a great level. Raikkonen, that start he had at the start of the race, he's performing like we all know and love from the driver. It's good to see that Ferrari are stepping up, but can they do it at a track which is quite power intensive, if you know what I mean? Which is a lot power based because of the long straights.
Okay, I'll put you on the spot. Pole and win. EJ, who's for the pole? Who's for the win?
Hamilton, pole, Hamilton win.
Ollie?
Hamilton. For both.
Stewart?
I'm going to say a Rosberg pole with a Hamilton win.
I'm agreeing with you. I think Rosberg's finally going to get the qualifying right, but I think that Hamilton will outrace him.
Wow, who won it last season in the qualifying split? Because I think it was Rosberg, if I remember rightly.
It was, and Lewis seems to have come back and truly addressed that, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, completely. But I still wouldn't rule out anything.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us this evening. I've been joined by Ollie, EJ, and Stewart. And we'll catch you again in a week's time after the Bahrain race, where we will see if we were right and we'll dissect that Grand Prix. Thanks again. Thanks for listening. Good night.
Thanks for listening. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.